Good morning, everyone. I thought I'd go ahead and get started to get us rolling on time. I don't know that we'll actually take the whole hour and 15 minutes, but we will be here for, obviously, questions and answers. My name's Tim Pashas. I'm Vice President of Solutions Marketing with Interactive Intelligence. And to my right over here is my colleague, Michael Schrahl, who is Senior Director of Global Alliances. And his responsibility is to make sure that with alliances like Microsoft and the integrations that we do with the solutions, that we're able to bring those to market and we have good, solid relationships with them. So here what we're going to talk about today is how we're going to use Lync as your core voice platform as it relates to improving communications and customer service. I'm going to spend some time with you taking you through a case study that we did with an organization named Bentley Systems, and I'll tell you more about them in a little bit. What I want to get out of the way, first of all, is who Interactive Intelligence is, because if you know a little bit about us and you start wondering, okay, if you're in the communication space, why are you talking about Lync, especially Lync Voice, considering that you're an IP telephony vendor? And how does that work? And how does that whole experience work with using Lync Voice as your core voice platform and improving customer service? That'll make a little bit more sense. Let me tell you about Interactive very quickly. We are a global organization focused on telecommunications in three spaces: in contact center, in unified communications, and business process automation. Been around for almost 20 years now, and our core focus while in the contact center space does give us lots of opportunity to roll into the unified communications space where their overlap starts happening with Microsoft. But there are a lot of things that Microsoft Lync brings to the table in the area of customer service, which is what we're all about. And we have found that by using Lync and positioning Lync for many of our customers where it seems most appropriate, then we want to make sure that happens, especially if it impacts customer service and the entire customer experience. Now, what you're seeing up here is our campus in the heart of Silicon Valley in Midwest in Indianapolis, Indiana. We have a campus that encases this area right here. And we are built upon a simple philosophy. And this philosophy is based on this statement that we got from our CEO and founder, Don Brown. It says, "We help customers turn customer service into a competitive weapon." Now, typically, I'm in front of a bunch of people who are concerned about making sure customer service is at the top of their mind. My guess is many of you aren't here for that. You really just want to hear, how in the world are you using Lync Voice? And yeah, I want to hear how it's going to make customer service better, because ultimately, if that's what I'm responsible for in my organization, then I want to make sure that happens. And that's what I'm going to take you through. So what happened, or how this all started was, as we talk with our contact centers, our customers, they continue to share with us, and what we see in the industry is that the contact center continues to evolve outside of just that space of the contact center. Those walls where agents make and take telephone calls all day long, bugging you at dinner time when you're trying to sit down with your family or to sell you something, or even when you need help, of course, they're there. What's happened is that organizations have started making available the subject matter experts throughout the entire organization. Now, how often have you called into an organization to get customer service and you hear, hold on just 1 second, I need to check out that answer. They're either noodling on their knowledge base or they're reaching out to, most likely, to a knowledge expert in their organization. And how are they doing that? Well, we have certain tools that we make available to our organizations to make that happen. But what we found is that many of them have started establishing a base of using Microsoft Lync to make that happen for instant messaging, for desktop collaboration, for video, as well as for presence management. Now, some of these areas we do well, and others Lync does far better than we do. So it made a lot of sense to bring those two together, especially when you have that collaboration going on throughout the entire organization, with the ultimate goal to improve customer service. And so what we've done is we have integrated our desktop platform with Microsoft Lync 2013. By bringing together those two applications, we provide a more superior experience for the end user and for the end customer, ultimately. And there was a particular organization, as I mentioned at the start of my presentation, named Bentley Systems, that did just this and had a need for that. In a contact center, you don't want to be juggling between applications on the desktop. When you've called in, you've probably heard things like, yeah, hold on a second, my system's not responding. Or, hold on a second, I need to look up that information. And what they're doing is they're juggling between applications. Some desktops have 17 different applications that contact center agent has to juggle to. And so our goal is to kind of try to bring all that together. by simplifying the desktop. And that's the purpose of us bringing together Microsoft Lync and our desktop client called Interaction Client. Now, typically when you look at customer service, in Lync specifically, you know that Lync cannot provide the customer service tools needed to improve customer experience. But when combined with other desktop applications such as ours, it provides a really good system overall. As I've talked to lots of people as Lync has evolved from LCS, OCS, and now into Lync, many people said, Lync's not ready for voice. It's just not there yet. But yet what we found is, if deployed correctly and monitored and set up correctly, it does a fantastic job. Particularly in this particular case study where we had a distributed environment, where we had contact center agents that were in several different locations across more than 20+ different offices worldwide. And when we had to look at MPLS versus just wide open internet for our internet connectivity for routing that voice, how was that going to happen? And what we found is Microsoft Lync, at least what this customer found, was Microsoft Lync was the best option in providing a superior voice quality. Now, our goal for providing this integration was fourfold. First one, allow users to work from a single interface of your choice. I already covered that. If I'm a contact center agent, or if I'm a business user, if I go back to my desk, I don't want to be juggling between applications. That's the goal of unified communications, to bring everything on a single desktop so I'm not juggling around, so I can make and take calls, emails, chats. I can change my status no matter where I am. And the same thing is true in the contact center. Agents cannot be fumbling around for things, or else calls go longer and costs go higher. We need to deliver the highest quality user experience possible. Again, same reason of the purpose of unified communications. I want the ease of implementation and configuration tasks so that I'm not, again, juggling around between desktop applications. And then also our goal was also take advantage of a direct SIP integration. We don't want to introduce additional boxes into an integration. We want to use a direct SIP tie line directly into Lync, into the mediation server, to make this possible, and also to keep voice clean and clear. The overall benefits, of course, is going to decrease talk time, because the less fumbling around I have to deal with is the less time I have to talk to the agent or to the customer, because I find the information that I need when I need it. I find the subject matter expert that's available in Lync that's not using the Interactive Intelligence Contact Center solution, and they can give me the answers that I need. Increased first call resolution. This is a metric that many contact centers use. They want to be able to have you get off the phone as happy as can be knowing your problem's been resolved, and never have to call back again unless it's, of course, for a different problem or a different sale opportunity or whatever it might be. And also we wanted to eliminate the transfer errors. Come on, when you're with a traditional phone system, typically you have to dial extensions to be able to transfer, and you're dialing into the wild blue yonder to be able to hope and pray that you've connected to someone. In our environment and in Microsoft Lync, transferring is a very simple process. The overall benefit, too, of joining the two pieces together is to increase collaboration, but Lync already has that as its core. And we also want to extend the contact center and the rest of the enterprise, which is also what I said earlier, we're seeing organizations drive to. So I want to tell you a little bit about Bentley Systems. Now, I could do this and talk a little time, but we put a video together that will tell you a little bit about them, the problem that they had, how they overcome it, and the results that they have. And then I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into it and talk about how they addressed voice and how they rolled all this out. So let me go ahead and start the video.
So we were founded in 1984. We are a more than 25-year-old software company. If you're a user of our software, you can be designing roads, bridges, railways. You can be in a mapping group.
We have 500 products on the price book. We support over 900. We have 18 different languages in 40+ countries.
We clearly all knew that we needed to have some improvements. We need to support 24 countries in 17 languages with my group, and we want to manage that all from one location here in Philadelphia. Routing was poor, and rollout across the world was definitely challenged. But we rolled out Microsoft Lync as our voice over IP layer in all of our offices worldwide. And so one of the key factors of picking a good multi-channel contact center vendor was the ability to integrate with Microsoft Lync technology. And so we ended up putting together this multi-channel vision and making a selection of interactive intelligence to provide that software and provide those services to us. Our multi-channel contact center project is really based off of 3 different pieces of software. We have interactive intelligence that's integrated with our SAP CRM system, and our voice layer is Microsoft Lync.
One of our visions for this implementation has always been that we want one place that our engineers can go without having multiple tools on their desktop to constantly go to.
So all of these 3 pieces of software work hand in hand to deliver a really good experience to our external users, as well as providing a very good internal experience for our analysts.
Bentley Systems, this is Zach. How can I help you?
Our analysts, our support engineers that we hire around the world, are very technical individuals. When we find a support engineer who has the right background for what we need, we end up hiring them wherever we find them. And so what we look for in our system is how can we tie these people around the world together. So if a user calls in, how long does it take us to identify who they are, the issue they were calling in on, and ultimately how long it would take us to talk to them and start asking them or answering their question. So instead of 4 minutes, it now is less than 30 seconds.
Everybody on my team is responsible for being in a phone queue. If there's not someone available, I get alerts that pop up and they instantly can see if there's enough coverage at that given time. They'll see the alert pop up on their own screen. They can instantaneously jump in, pick it up. Even the people that are on backup, they all get the message. So somebody will pick up the call without me having to do anything. That allows users to get help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
So our users are having a better experience. Our analysts, our folks internal into Bentley are having a better experience. But on the cost saving side, that's over $1 million a year. We've done a really good job of integrating Microsoft Lync, SAP CRM, and interactive intelligence. And we've done that within our support organization and a couple other groups within the company.
The contact center doesn't just involve technical support. It involves sales. It involves the Bentley Institute, back office, financial operations, etc. Now with interactive, the users get to the right person speaking the right language in the right region and a subject matter expert on the product the first time they call in. So interactive has honestly made our jobs much, much easier.
It's been fantastic to work with Interactive Intelligence as a partner. Their openness to integrate with our systems and with Microsoft Lync and SAP CRM has been fantastic.
All right, I want to get away from the sales pitch here for just a second. Yeah, they talked a lot about interactive intelligence, but here are the things I'd like to see you take away from this, from the video itself. First of all, he described a very complex environment, right? They provide software for people who are constructing things, who are building a lot of technical kind of things. Bridges, roads, plumbing, large buildings. I mean, bridges, this is the CAD system of your dreams if you're in that industry. But one of the things that he said there were a couple of things that he said that I want to bring out. One was, he said, when we find an analyst with the right skill set, regardless of the location, we want to hire them. If you're in IT, how do you support that environment? How do you get voice out to them to ensure that no matter where they are, quality is important? Now, you also hear that they're in the contact center business, they're the customer service environment. Well, if Lync is good enough for their customers and their internal organizations to use for communications, then surely it's got to be used for an organization that just wants to establish it for their voice communications platform for nothing else but then to be able to make and take telephone calls and enjoy the other benefits that Lync provides. They also had, well, let me back up for a second and explain how they got to where they were. They kind of explained to you that he said something about having trouble and we needed to improve from communication-wise. Bentley Systems says, I'll show up some stats. I just had a phone call with Greg Rhodes this morning just to update some of these stats because this video was done almost 2 years ago and they've evolved and now have gone off into Lync 2013. They're an organization worldwide of 3,500 employees. Now, they had grown through acquisitions. And if any of you in the room have grown through acquisitions, you know that along with those acquisitions comes a lot of infrastructure and baggage, right? You've got old, antiquated phone systems, and that's exactly what they had. Not necessarily antiquated, but perhaps not providing the best possible audio or video audio that they could provide. especially across multiple locations. They need to bring them together to make them work seamlessly. Well, they had found that they were spending a lot of money on just supporting that infrastructure. In addition, there was latency issues, connectivity issues. When customers would call into their contact center and they need to be transferred to a subject matter expert or an analyst, perhaps when they called into Exton, Pennsylvania, which is where their headquarters is, and they need to be transferred to Dublin, Ireland, where the subject matter expert was. Delays, drop calls, latency, problems. So from a cost perspective, it was costing them a great deal of money on that. You saw up there that they saved over $1 million in just overall costs. That was portrayed in a couple of areas. One was in infrastructure support, constantly having to get in touch with somebody external to support their telephony environment, as well as building a staff internally for that. It also included additional talk time while customers would call in to try to connect to the agent, and the agent was spending time looking up information because systems weren't integrated well enough together. And they dropped that time from 4 minutes down to 30 seconds. So from the time you called in, instead of waiting 4 minutes to get to the point of your call, it was now 30 seconds. And when you think about all those costs, that dramatically paid for any kind of improvement that they needed to do. So today, 3,500 worldwide Lync users in 80 offices. As far as their overall contact center infrastructure, about 450 total Lync in what we call CIC. CIC is our flagship product. It stands for Customer Interaction Center. More about that if you visit us on the show floor, and we'll actually do a demo and everything for you of the integration. But 450 total Lync users. 275 support engineers are spread throughout 26 offices around the world. But they also, and you heard the lady talk about it as well, it doesn't just include the agents, it also includes the support infrastructure, sales, marketing, financial. All those different areas are also people that need to be tapped into and have to be running on Lync. Volume-wise, 600,000 users from 40 different countries, and they have to support 18 different languages. She had said 500 products. They're now consolidated down to 300 products. And they have over 200,000 service tickets per year. So what you're seeing here is an environment that's very complex, distributed, and requires that voice be of the highest quality possible without downtime. And as I mentioned, the poor user experience was high, and one of the driving reasons why they had to go towards a Lync infrastructure or to a different direction. Now let me talk to you why they decided to go down the Lync path. When we talked to, Mike was on the call with me as well, when we talked to Greg this morning, he said one of the driving factors was because Lync's codecs were far superior in being able to support users from any different type of voice band. So they need to be able to make sure that when calls got transferred to someone who's working from home or working across the big pond, that audio quality was just as good. And Lync codecs provided the best possible audio quality for their organization in that distributed type of environment. Now, a couple of other reasons why. When you look at this slide, you see that they also had a driving reason for doing a multi-channel experience. They wanted to make sure that their customers could choose any channel they wanted to communicate with their organization. Chat, email, voice, fax, whatever it might be. And it had to be something that was supported across several different parts of their company. So they created what they call the Customer Interaction Hub. And this Customer Interaction Hub really consists of our solution as well as many of their back-office solutions. They talked about their CRM solution as well as Lync. It has to do with also being able to combine things into what's called a universal queue where all interactions can go and they can report and track and record and monitor all of them, as well as to build workflows and get those routed to different agents. But again, as I mentioned before, it had to be able to communicate and work effectively with their back office and enterprise resources, regardless of their location. Absolutely. Sheila, go ahead.
So one of the things that happens with CRM systems versus contact center systems is sometimes some functionality is duplicated in both.
Yeah.
Web chat or
Yeah.
email. So the SAP CRM could be doing some of those. Question is Interactive doing all of those, or is SAP CRM doing some of them, and how did the customer know?
So I would say, first of all, as far as is CIC or our flagship product handling the email routing, the chats, and all that stuff, or is Bentley leveraging the SAP piece? We're handling the email and the chat components itself. I know that Mike's team, as far as Global Alliances, has worked with other CRM vendors to allow us to leverage their pieces as well. So if you don't have SAP or using Salesforce or others, we've been able to do that.
And specifically at Bentley, they're using our web chat, our email routing, but we've integrated those into the SAP desktop, so it's a seamless experience for the agents to manage those media types. So we're not using their routing mechanisms or their handling mechanisms. It's all coming through our system, but I'm still in one universal desktop to be able to handle those media types.
Yep.
Follow the knowledge base. Whose is that? Because again, you have one and they have one.
You know, I don't know for sure. I would imagine, we could follow up on that and figure out. But again, we do run into a lot of that, and our experience and our challenge is really around, universal queue. We're always going to provide routing capabilities across the medias, but we do have other integrations, other providers, including Microsoft Dynamics CRM, where we actually will route media that actually is not surface or starting in our solution. It starts elsewhere, but we can still put that into that universal queue because of our extensibility of our solutions.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's talk about some of the benefits they achieved, and then Mike's not standing up here for nothing, by the way. I'm going to have him show off the integration so you can see what that user experience is, and take you through a couple of scenarios here in just a second. And I also asked them to chime in if I missed anything. So benefits from their perspective, from a multi-channel piece. They want to reduce the time it takes to identify a user, but more importantly, regardless of the way in which you interact with Bentley systems. So if you do come in via email, we've got your email handle. Email address, and we can identify you quickly and be able to respond or bring up an SAP screen pop in that case. Clearly, we want to improve the voice quality. We talked about that. Roll out and achieve worldwide queues and skills. And this is kind of interesting. So when you join Bentley, you have, first of all, after you've gone through the whole screening, we've identified, or they have identified you as an expert in a certain area. And you're tagged with those skill sets. And therefore, when you're entered into our system, automatically when that call comes in, we know that you're available. We know what your status is in Lync because of the integration we've done, and we know that you're going to be able to take and receive an interaction from you based off the skill sets that we've got.
Question on, do you have some kind of a test mechanism which you run into our Lync environment to make sure that the contact center integration is going to not, basically the customers will have good experience out of it?
Absolutely. So the question would be do we have something that allows us to test it to be sure that the integration works just fine, so when a call comes in that we can automatically ring that SIP phone, the desktop or a Lync-enabled phone, to be sure the quality is good?
It really is, it's still on top of the Lync infrastructure. So if you look at and review a topology of how calls will come in through our solution, at the end where we come in is at a SIP integration level. All calls will or could be directed to us for the contact center originally, and then we'll deliver those back to when we've defined the agent. So I'm going to send this call to Mike Schrahl. I've now sent that down, so we're still monitoring that call throughout. So for recording, speech analytics, all of those provided things, but the infrastructure required for Lync is the same from a quality perspective that you'll need for those calls to be routed through our solutions. And we do have many other solutions around monitoring, sending events for call quality issues, et cetera.
The last item on the list says they wanted to decrease the reliance on telephony support. Before, I'd mentioned they had a staff of people that had to be able to support their existing infrastructure through the acquisitions they had. In my conversations with Greg Rhodes this morning, they are now down to, he said, 2 people, and then he backed off. He said, really, we're down to 1.5 people, supporting 3,500 users across, what he said, 80 different offices, or 20-some different offices around the world. So I thought that was pretty amazing. As far as what they're using and how this works, so let's talk about the user experience. So, and then I've got a slide that I'm going to have Mike talk to about our architectural, so you can see how Lync was deployed in their environment in conjunction with CIC. So they do use Lync for all internal communications. Now, our desktop is running on the contact center environment, which was around the 200 plus, 275 individual contact center agents, plus an additional couple of 200 support staff. But everybody else of the 3,500 organization is using Lync for voice, presence, instant messaging, video, desktop collaboration to do all the different types of things. So let's talk about how this was done. So Mike, I'm going to turn this slide over to you so you can explain architecturally much better than I could on how they've got this deployed.
Yeah, so this just describes how they had separated their landscape. There are two main offices, one in Exton, as he was talking about, and their other one is in Dublin. Now, this is, from an architecture standpoint, it's really a performance issue across the pond, and really allowing those remote offices that are geographically closer to be able to provide that integration. Now, they have different branch appliances at some of their other smaller offices, but they will home into different areas within in that environment. Greg mentioned a little bit about how when they deployed the solution, they not only did a separation of rollout across geographies, they also did redundancy of their Lync environment in each of the locations. So Exton has another one, I don't remember the site, but it's pretty close to where they're at. So if they ever have a failover or the site goes down, their Lync environment will stay intact. Now, interactive intelligence application, you'll actually not see it on this diagram, but to explain how they use and how we work with them is our solution is actually sitting in Exton, and it's providing contact center solution on top of Lync's voice for them globally. Now, from an architecture and audio perspective, audio, if it came in, let's say, to Dublin, the media stack from our solution will hit, those calls will stay over in Dublin. But the SIP, the call control aspects of that, actually gets delivered over to us in Exton. Now, what that means is that the actual data requirements, the MPLS requirements between those two sites or any remote sites is really minimalized because call control is very cheap. Audio is not. So but what that allows for that to do is calls can come into those remote offices, be able to be delivered to remote employees, but we're providing that brain, that ACD, that IVR functionality by putting our media stack solution, what we call a media server, in those branch offices.
I'm just going to real quickly give you, because when I had this graphic, I knew you couldn't read it from back there. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of what things are. I think, if I go right here. So right here, this is reverse proxy. You can see they've got it replicated across both sides. Right here, this is their enterprise pool with co-located media servers that are mediation servers, rather, that are running the Lync environment. And then down here, this is their SQL databases. Down here, this is their monitoring servers. Right. And this is their AV conferencing pool. And then down here, they've got their other offices, which are controlled by these main centers. But out at the other offices, they do have a Lync server that's able to handle all the local type of traffic that's necessary. Any questions on this part before I move on? Because I'm not going to be able to go any deeper than that. But we can certainly get it. And I have to say, I wish Greg Rhodes could have joined us today here because he would have been able to tell you more than we could have. But we can certainly get in touch with you if that's something that is available. He said he'd be willing to do that.
So that was over here in Exton. So they were redundant. They're actually not on this picture. This is really a description of their Lync landscape, separate from us, and talking in terms of how they actually separated out and did their global deployment, both at their branches as well as their main sites, because their two main offices are Exton and Dublin.
So they're both their primary and secondary sitting next to them?
Correct.
That's correct.
Yep, and all audio is routed through Lync, but we can still tap into all recordings and everything locally. Yeah.
Also, your media servers are locally.
Our media servers.
You have your SBAs or your pool with a media server.
Correct. For branch offices. In some cases, when I think in terms of, they had smaller branch offices where some of these support individuals are at, but they're also at-home support agents who are working, and they're going to home to the closest branch office. But those from their branch, they'll put in a branch, Lync branch application services, along with our media server stack, so that all the media will stay close to that location. But because of the wideband capabilities, there are ways to bridge, and it's very lightweight because of Lync, to bridge audio across from Exton to Dublin when they need to.
Question in the back?
What are you using as a reverse proxy server? Are you using
So the question was, what are we using for a reverse proxy server? I have no idea what they're using.
Yeah, no, I couldn't speak to that.
Okay. I do know I can tell you that in here, these two boxes here, these are your virtual server clusters that they're using. You'll see that they're using VMware on this side and then Windows Hyper-V, and that was just because they wanted to expand their knowledge and expertise on both platforms. But if I'm not mistaken, they were leaning towards one of those two corporate-wide. Now, one of the best practices that we want to stress to you is when you're rolling out Lync Voice, at least from Bentley's request, they suggested you roll it out in pieces. Do a nice staggered platform release as you go through, bring up offices slowly but surely, test and retest and be sure everything's doing well. You can see from this particular perspective, it took them literally almost 1.5 to 2 years to be able to roll out across all their different offices. I hesitated to bring up this slide because you can see it's rather dated, but I think that's important for you to see that they made this decision almost 3 years ago and have been running on it ever since and have been running successfully in that kind of environment with Lync.
So they started with Lync 2010?
That's correct. That's correct.
CIC. Now, how does it work? Does it work within a blended environment where you're a company that already has an existing CIC with CIC, SIP, voice, and telecom phones, and now you've decided to bring in Lync 2013? I know you're looking.
I know. I was looking at how you knew so much about us. I was like, very impressed.
Can I blend agents? So in other words, can I migrate my contact center to Lync from CIC SIP?
Right. So the question would be, yeah, so the question would be is, if I've got people running on our solution already, I told you at the start of this that we already do IP telephony. Majority of organizations that use this on the contact center are not switching over to Lync to handle voice. In their particular case, they started from the premise of we want Lync voice throughout. Now we need a contact center vendor because Lync doesn't provide all of that. And in their case, yeah, we're actually using Lync as the endpoint, all the voice endpoints to route the traffic to. If you wanted to go that route, yes, you could blend and move your agents over.
Just because we're transferring between environments, you know, it's transferring to Nortels from SIP to
Sure.
Yep.
Nortels,
Yeah.
and Lync is going in to replace the Nortels, and you know, transferring is a big thing from the contact center to a city
Yeah.
and inside the business.
It's really the value that we can bring. I mean, their approach was, let's get the voice figured out with Lync before we really move the contact center solution. But they really could have said, well, you know, we keep acquiring companies and we keep acquiring different PBX solutions. We could standardize on CIC and start to roll out and replace different PBX solutions throughout. So, you know, one agent could be coming in today, work on a Nortel, as you mentioned, a phone, and then tomorrow come in and be a Lync user. It's really just a very simple transformation. Because the way we look at it, again, contact center layer on top of voice infrastructure. So it's just an endpoint. We just got to deliver the call.
I mean, would we move hundreds of agents from CIC? I don't think so. But newcomers and new smaller contact centers within the company
Sure.
could take advantage of that.
Absolutely. And you know, the transfer capability you talked about, as you think about it as an agent, as I'm receiving the call, we're in that call path throughout the entire life cycle because it came through our solution. Whether the endpoint goes to a PBX phone, it goes to a Lync phone, it really doesn't matter. We're still in the middle and we're doing all that audio mixing throughout the scenario. And of course, we're adding all the value of the recording and analytics that go behind that, regardless of what your endpoint is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's talk about just real quickly just the global rollout. You'll see that the footprint that Bentley Systems has is pretty vast. So when I talked about the worldwide footprint and how they logistically have to support all these different employees around the world, you can see that it's pretty big. So they not only staggered rollout from in the U.S., they also stagger that rollout globally over a period of time. So one of the other pieces that had to be in place was they had to make sure that that they had an infrastructure that provided multi-language capabilities. Interactive Intelligence, at least our CIC solution, is localized in about 23 different languages, and Lync, of course, is able to be supported across those different environments as well. So bringing the two together made a lot of sense. Now, this is where we want to talk about the experience. I'm going to actually ask Mike to switch over. We wanted to show you a little bit about what that experience looks like and how the integration is going to work. You'll see here that they were using the Polycom CX600s for their voice endpoint for their end users, but they could just as easily have just plugged a USB headset directly into their desktop and use the combined solution. Now, as he's getting ready to do the demonstration, the video piece, I want to explain to you that there are several different ways in which you can add contact center solutions to Lync. If you've looked at it before and you want to establish core contact center voice, or have Lync as your core voice platform, that's great. But when you start talking about customer service, that's where it lacks. It really does. It doesn't have all the rich multi-channel functionalities that you need, all the different workforce optimization pieces that you need, et cetera. Now, some vendors will add on to Lync and expand Lync's capabilities and use Lync as the desktop client. We found we already had that components that were necessary in a nice, easy-to-use desktop interface that was easily able to be transformed to whatever our customers needed. So what we thought made a lot more sense is to actually combine Lync into our agent interface. And so what Mike is going to show you is how that interface works together in the environment. Mike?
Thanks, Tim. So I'm going to walk you through a video demonstration, and I'll pause throughout that and kind of explain a little what you're seeing here. But we're going to go through two different scenarios. So I try to flip this on here. Not break it. All right, so the two agent scenarios as I go through this. First is day in the life of the first day of an agent. So they come in, they're going to log into their solution, and they need help from their supervisors. So I reach out to my supervisor, need my help. And then the second scenario is really going to be around kind of the ask the expert demonstration or need. A lot of times, as we've been speaking a lot about, is that in Bentley's cases, they've got 3,500 agents or 3,500 users globally on their platform. But their support engineers really need to be able to break that silo that they have in the contact center and reach out to the organization to provide the best customer experience. So we'll kind of show a demonstration of that as well. So first one here is just showing very simply, and of course...
It's not showing now, is it?
Of course it's not showing now.
We were having trouble with playing a video and pausing the video inside of PowerPoint and in presenter mode. And for whatever reason, we couldn't figure out how to get it done. The controls for pausing the video would not show up. And so we thought we had a workaround to make this happen. Does anybody else know how to get those pause controls to show up?
I'm gonna switch it up and just go risky, and I'll keep up with the video and talk very quickly. No questions, please.
I don't even know what's going on anymore.
There you go.
All right, so you're going to see there's actually audio to this video. Preferred to do it live and really explain a little bit more about this. So this is actually for consumption for customers and to understand more about our vision. This is kind of talking through the scenarios. So as I mentioned, new agent is starting out using the interaction client, which is that contact center application sitting on top of Lync. They're going to be able to, that's the scenario one, reaching out to a supervisor. And the second scenario is around the Ask the Expert. So we're going to start the new agent help. So Shelly is going to start her first day. She's our call center agent. You can see in her, she's got Lync open, starting her first day. Sam is her supervisor. So she's going to reach out to Sam real quick and IM him and say, hey, about ready to get started. The day, first day, I'm going to log into and work on the queue. Going over to Sam's screen, Sam sees Shelly. Not sure why Shelly wants to talk to him already. Wait, I'm here to help, right?
Make a good first impression.
So here she goes. She's going to, she'll reach out to him when she needs him. She's going to start her interaction client. So she minimizes that Lync client. She opens up the what we call the interaction.net client. So this is our flagship CIC client end user experience. When she logs in, one thing you'll notice is as soon as she logs in, what we have on the right-hand side, the Lync embedded client. Second thing you'll notice is her presence has switched to Gone Home in our solution, and that is actually synchronized over to Lync. This only happens when that agent is logged into the contact center solution. She's now looking at the support queue down on the left-hand side to see if there's any calls waiting. Should she be working? There's not anything going on yet. Now she's going to look over at the workgroup statistics. Now she's a part of this support queue. And in here she can see that there are two agents logged in. Of course, Sam is actually the other agent, the supervisor. She can see there's no calls waiting, and there's no agents available. Good thing there's no calls in queue. She can go ahead and set herself available. Now, what you'll see instantly is her status changed in Lync and available, so everybody in the enterprise can see that. But one of the keys is she's still not available to receive contact center calls. So she's going to go and reach to the agent activation. This is actually saying, hey, log me into the queue. And if you watch, the change of the status actually instantly happens, which is now I'm available in queue. So this sends a message to the entire organization, I'm not available to receive calls. So now she's going to start over here and make herself available, and here comes her first call. So you'll see she's actually going to click pick up in the interaction client. Now at the right hand, down the bottom right hand corner, you had noticed that the Lync call was coming in as well. So when that call is delivered, it's not only ringing in her user desktop or agent desktop, it's actually ringing her Lync endpoint. But by clicking call pickup, it actually picked up that call in Lync instantly. Down in the left-hand corner, you can see a name of a station. So to us, her station being her Lync endpoint is our delivery of the vehicle. You also notice her status changed when we received this. So I'm a contact center agent. I'm now on a contact center interaction. Presence changed to say on contact center interaction. This is even a better way to tell the enterprise, don't bug me. And we've synchronized it to the do not disturb so someone can't interrupt her conversation right now. Now, she needs help. First call, already needs some help. Didn't go to training, apparently. So she's looking at SAM in different ways. You see on the right-hand side, or you can see how that's the embedded client. But we also have this company directory from our solution where it's including all of those Lync players or Lync users in the environment, both non-Lync, etc. But she can also start an instant message right from within that interface. So she can really choose what makes sense for her. So she's asking Sam for some assistance. Got an issue with a customer. Sam received this IM. So, what's the problem? She's like, I need to call you. I can't explain the problem through an IM, so she just wants to reach out. She can simply take this, put the customer call on hold. She can click in the company directory to make an outbound call to Sam. Sam is also running the interaction client with Lync enabled. They're now talking, they're discussing the issue, and Sam says, okay, I get it, you're not going to be able to handle this. Can you just bring me into the call? So from here, she's just going to drag and drop those two conversations together, and that's going to create a conference. So that conference is two parties on Lync, customers coming in through interactive intelligence. So now Sam says, hey, you know what? I can take this. You can go ahead and drop off. I want you to get back to some other calls. So she says, great. I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect this call. Move on to other things. So as you notice, as soon as she disconnects, one key part, the customer's still talking to Sam. We've moved out of that conversation, or at least Shelly has moved out of that conversation. But her presence changed to follow-up. So now this is an opportunity after the call has completed that she now has had some time to finish up, and then the system says, okay, you've had enough time to move on. So goes into the next one. So next scenario, moving on. I got to move quickly. Find an expert. So the same scenario, now Shelly's working on an email. This is the multimedia side. So we can handle chats, emails, SMS, text, you name it. So now she needs to reach out to Sam again for an email. So you can see here the email experience. The customer says, hey, I'm looking at a page on your website, and I would like you to explain, is this information going to be updated anytime soon? Now, Shelly doesn't have this information. She's not responsible for this website. She's not obligated to keep this information or know about this information. So she reaches out to marketing. Marketing, she knows, is the group that will do that. She sees the information about marketing, sees this Kelly Long is in the marketing division, and all from within the .NET client. Able to open an IM, say, I need some help on this email interaction. I love the, are you there? Isn't Presence supposed to tell you you're there? I still do it, though. Yeah, so now Kelly is saying, what can I do for you? And customers asking for, are we going to update this page? Is it the most up-to-date information? And this is where now Shelly is going to reach out or ask Kelly to say, look at what I'm looking at here. Let me show you the screen. I need some assistance. So she starts to share her desktop now on their side. And then now they're looking at the screen. They can talk about the actual media, which is that website. I got the names wrong. This is actually Sam talking to, not Kelly in this, I'm sorry, not Shelly in this scenario. So in this case, it says, you know, hey, why don't you just give me a call? I can talk through the page because there is some stuff that's not up to date, but I think you need to respond back to your customer appropriately because we won't get it updated right away. So simply, the interface was still open where they were sharing. They make a call, simply just escalate that modality to a call, that conversation from a web chat / an IM with an app share. Now they have a call. She gets the answer she needs. And now she's prepared to respond to the customer within that email interaction of interactive intelligence. So the last one is kind of the same scenario, but we now have a call. Same customer comes in, they're calling it about the website. So in this case, we're now going to reach out to somebody in the enterprise, again, the marketing group, to review that discussion. So it's again now I have a scenario where I reached out to the expert, which was the first one. I got my knowledge. I then responded to the customer, and now it's, okay, I've really set this up. I'm going to now transfer into the enterprise from our contact center solution to a user that is completely Lync-based, does not have interactive intelligence, does not run our client solution. So Kelly's saying, I'm going to pull you in. They're doing hey, can I get some assistance? I'm going to go ahead and pull in Kelly. And so in our Lync-enabled company directory, simply can right-click on that, make a call, click the link to make a call. Now we're reaching out to this Lync-only user, connecting from agent to Kelly, in this case, Sam to Kelly. Put the customer on hold, make that phone call. I now have both of them there. I can now bring them together in a conference, which is more the appropriate way to do a transfer, what we like to call a warm transfer that's a little bit more warm than, okay, now I'll transfer you. Bring them into the conference, and then drop off at the appropriate time. Same scenario as before, but really the difference here is that it's important to know that we're not able to just transfer or consult into somebody else in the organization that is on a different queue or move them from one area of the contact center to another. It allows us to be able to reach out into the enterprise and use Lync voice technology as well as all the other medias of IM, presence, etc.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. So from that presentation, I hope you got not only a good feel for the integration that we've done, but also how that customer experience changes quite a bit when you're leveraging Lync, and not only in the contact center, but throughout the rest of the organization to reach into those subject matter experts. So jumping back to Bentley in a couple of quick slides just to wrap up, let you know some of the things that they've seen. So as, one of their goals was to reduce the time it takes to identify a user. So they went from 4 minutes to less than 30 seconds for the reasons that I talked to, and you can see why. If we can screen pop the SAP system, the Microsoft CRM system, the Salesforce.com, or Salesforce solution, whatever it might be, and then clearly I get all that information up front much faster. And then across 450 analysts, that's $1.3 million in U.S. savings is what they had achieved. Again, decreasing that overall introductory talk time. In a survey, 90% of our colleagues and users reported improved call quality over our previous telephony solution. I was, in all honesty, 2.5 years ago, I wasn't much of a believer that Lync was going to be good for voice. Great for instant messaging, great for presence, great for desktop collaboration, but this is a case study that has teeth. Clearly, they can show that they've done a really good job with the call quality. Roll out worldwide queues and skills, they've achieved that, and then they wanted to decrease the reliance on telephony support, and I kind of mentioned that before, where they've gone from a staff of many people down to 1.5 people handling it. And down there it says telephony channel is only 45% of our total business, and that was important as their whole goal was to roll out a multi-channel environment.
Right, and that adds to the SAP chat experience, which was key. They really need to be able to not only have those chat conversations directly within SAP CRM, but be able to have those conversations be able to be stored and tracked so that they have that history with the agents. I now remember some discussions around the queues and the skills with Bentley. One of the ones that I found interesting, and I think it's very applicable to their business, their engineers, their analysts are very skilled. They're sought out, and some of the routing that they did is around language. Of course, all the different languages that they support, they want to make sure that they get the right agent that can service them. But I know that they specifically also worked with being able to dip into SAP to determine who was the last agent that handled this customer. So they've identified the customer in the IVR, they've dipped and figured that information out, but they want to give them the best experience, and they're willing to allow the system to delay a little bit on their service levels to be able to get to the same individuals that they've worked with before. So really utilizing that different, I call that a kind of a specialized skill, but you're targeting your agent. You're targeting someone that they know that they've had experiences with before, and I know that they've actually effectively deployed that.
Very good. Yep.
How did they handle the skills route? How did they track it? The person had the right skills.
So, yeah. So the question was, how did they track the skill and the information? So in our interactive intelligence platform, CIC, all that information is stored in our solution. So those that administrate the solution, they have standard set of skills for the different agents. When they come on board, they go through a standard set of training on certain products. Okay, you can do these 7 products. I'll automatically add those skills to you. You can speak these 4 languages. I'll add that as well. And that really just coupled together, now the solution is able to monitor and to route based on those criteria. And also with the workforce management side is able for them to be able to forecast based on the volume that they're getting, where they're missing out from a skill perspective. They don't have enough Spanish-speaking engineers that have this product line. So that would be a way for they can focus on training of where they enhance their business on training and expanding.
And then I believe there's, from the Lync side, you might be asking as well, how do they keep track of the skill sets on that? My guess is they had already created Lync groups as well. So your skill sets are grouped together by Lync groups. Yep.
Yeah, so reaching the enterprise, great example. Mm-hmm.
A couple recommendations that we wanted to share with you. I'm just going to read these out because these were in their words and they wanted me to share them. We learned how to balance efficient resource utilization, the worldwide queues, and the need to create healthy relationships with your users, as well as introduce the concept of regionality. In that particular case, they were not before trying to balance off the interactions and routing them to the different groups on a region-by-region basis. And so they've learned how to do that better. They underestimated the impact of handling multilingual users. And this is kind of surprising to me, but it happens quite a bit in a lot of organizations that, in this particular case, they now understand the complexities of our users' desire to speak with Bentley employees in their native tongue. And so, of course, when interactions come in, that's one of the skill sets that's tagged to it. What language do they need to be able to speak so we can get them to the right people who speak their language? If you want to decrease phone support, then you have to route all your communication channels from one system. In this case, it is CIC. The important part is it becomes very complex and very difficult when you're trying to route or even manage multiple phone systems or contact center solutions. And it becomes much easier to do it when you can handle everything on a single platform. And the reporting needs are essential from day one to be able to know what's been happening with all the interactions and to track all of them. Standardized on a single corporate VoIP solution. And again, in this case, they had 2 VoIP systems, one for support and one for the rest of the organization. We talked to a lot of groups that still maintain that they want to maintain the separate systems between the organizations. That's fine. If you want to do that, we'll continue to work with those organizations and those solutions. But companies like Bentley find that it's much easier if you can standardize on a single VoIP solution enterprise-wide. Standardized on hard phone endpoints rather than soft phones. They spent more time debugging and supporting soft phones than it cost to buy the agents their own phones. In this case, the cost for hard phones are a lot less expensive, especially in the contact center where, at least from interactive intelligence, we don't need all the complexity built into the phone. We don't care what the endpoint is. We're just going to route it. We'll control it from the desktop. And then treat your major vendors as true partners in your success. That was just a nice nod to Microsoft and Interactive Intelligence saying, hey, we treat you as a partner here to make this work successfully. So with that, I'd like to open up for any questions you might have. Yes, in the back.
How about the voice recording for the archiving and reporting? Do you record calls?
Yes. So if the question, if I understand is right, what about the call recordings, right? So when the calls come in, at least if they touch the contact center, we're recording them, even if they transfer off into a Lync user. Because the call comes through us first and then through the SIP tie line, we go directly to Lync to connect the call. We have that whole call traffic coming through.
Yeah,
you developed a new
Yeah, so I was going to say, we actually have our own tool, and we do integrate out to other third parties as well. In the case of Bentley, they are using our what we call interaction recorder. So when I mentioned those media servers, that they're interactive intelligence media servers, those are completely built and homegrown organic and interactive intelligence. And those provide all the media services that we need, from simple things like detecting digits on an IVR to playing prompts, but to recording calls. And more complexly, we now have our own real-time word spotting, where we do speech analytics looking for specific phrases or key words that have been said during, and that's really part of our standard stack. So yes, we record, and the value there is that when you get calls received at these branch offices, you're recording throughout. It's not it's not going across your WAN to a centralized system. So that's where the separation of media and call control. So we provide all that.
Any other questions? Whoa, let's go back to that. I saw yours first.
You don't have a CRM system deployed. Is there anything inside the interactive software that you can track customer history or call position?
So we will track everything that happened with that call. So when it connected, who it connected to, what numbers they called from, what company they called from, and the numbers that we've received from all the different people, what chats, emails, faxes, any interactions we receive from them, we will track all of that for you. When it comes to actual case information, we don't store that information. Yeah, we found it best to leave that up to the experts. Yeah, I'll go you next.
When you transfer the call and you during the presentation, the two internal guys, Kelly and all, they were able to share the screen. Is that being recorded? Did you screen record internally?
Yeah, so we do screen recording of the agent desktop. In that particular case, we would have captured all that information that would have happened on that side, yes. We would not have captured the Lync side of the end user not using our solution. Yep.
And so it goes back to the recording that we discussed before. We have our own screen recording solutions, part of our interaction recorder solution stack, that it does the agent-based recording. So when I'm on a call, it's actually recording my screen until I complete that call and drop off, then it stops the recording.
And standard out of the box is on-demand recording, because I saw that there's
Good point. Very good. Yes, on-demand recording is ad hoc. Ad hoc recording is out-of-the-box capabilities, as well as the conferencing capabilities.
Yeah, so one thing I want to stay there is that you did see the record button. That's more traditionally used, not in a contact center. It's more available in a business user or an enterprise user. Yeah. That's the on-demand side for UC-based communication. Typically in a contact center, agents never see a record button. The system is determining, based on the rules that you define in your organization, when I need to start recording or stop recording, whether it be my compliance, I do every 10th call, or I want to recall every call that goes through this queue needs to be recorded, or I've got a list of people who have been calling in and making a lot of pain, so specific caller ID, ANI information. So there's a rules-based engine that defines that. The agents where you do interface with or could interface with that recording system is what we call secure pause, which is around when you're receiving payment information. You need to make sure that that part of the recording is not recorded and nothing from screen is being recorded, and that is being paused during that. So that's one place where an agent might interact with a recording solution.
The out-of-the-box ad hoc recording is a lot of fun. I've been around Interactive for 15 and a half years. My daughter's 14 years old, so I have call recordings that she has called since she was a little baby and little kid, so I've been able to capture them, voicemails and call recordings. It's been fun. There was a question in back. Yeah.
I just had a question when you talked about with debugging the software appliance. What were some of the issues you guys ran into in deploying that?
I don't know. That was Bentley was having it. Thanks, Sheila. Mike, do you know?
No, I don't. I couldn't speak to their specifics. I think some of the challenges is on the desktop, the different CPU utilization. So as you saw, they have two screens. These engineers are running that software, that very complex software, and I think they're concerned that if they are utilizing a lot of the CPU from their own CAD software, they wouldn't want to have audio degradation because of it.
Correct.
You have the same problem with Cisco where you have VoIP running on your data VLAN, then you get potentially voice problems, while the hard phones are on a separate voice VLAN.
Right. Right.
And back? Sorry.
We have seen that incoming call pop-ups to Lync call and your application. What if an agent answers the call from Lync? Or
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter?
Nope. No, because it is confusing, or it could be confusing. So our toast is separate from their toast. You can actually turn ours off. You can't turn Lync's off. That's correct. So because what happens is if you look at the call progression through the system, SIP call comes into our systems. We then determine it's going to be delivered to agent over here. I then send a SIP invite down to that Lync phone. Now we're aware of it going to the Lync phone. If the Lync side picks up and we receive a connect response, we now know that actual call is now connected, and we change our state inside of our solution. So the way we look at it, it does not matter what the endpoint is. It could be a Polycom. It could be a tie line to a PBX through a gateway. I mean, there's so many different options, and when we receive those responses, we'll update our call state based on that.
Okay, up front up here.
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned Lync-enabled directory, and when you clicked to call, it didn't look like a Lync extension to me. Do you have a separate directory in CIC versus the active directory that Lync uses?
Our directory, there is a separate one because it's based on, so I should state the question again first. So do we have a separate directory from the Lync directory or a separate directory, in this case, from Active Directory? So first off, we are a completely Microsoft Stack solution. We're integrated to the Active Directory. But if you can think about your enterprise, only a subset of them are going to be using call center solutions. So when you create users in our solution, you can pull them directly and synchronize those in Active Directory. In fact, when you may have not seen it during the Bentley video, there was a checkbox that says enable the Lync integration. What that does is it's actually matching up the user and pulling that Lync SIP information and storing that in our solution so that we know how to deliver calls to them via SIP endpoint. So really what you're seeing in that company directory, there's two different things. First off, we would see all the CIC users. That's what our standard solution would do. But what we've added as part of the Lync-enabled company directory is we source all of those Lync-only users also out from Active Directory, and it's stored in what I would call like a merged company directory. So basically, it's the same exact directory you see in Lync. It's just shown inside of our solution, and you can search for users the same way with CIC, Lync, or merged users, and be able to provide the same IM video.
And I don't have to maintain two directories?
No, absolutely not.
That's what I'm getting at.
Question there?
Yeah, so with the large CIC and Lync rollout with so many countries, do you know how they did ongoing support with, with Interactive and Microsoft solutions?
So as it relates to supporting both platforms?
Right. So for both. So you got so many countries and so many rollouts, and architecturally and technically, stuff obviously works, but how do they do kind of day one support? Did they do it in-house? Did they partner?
They did do it in-house. They're actually a direct customer. They're a direct customer of ours, so we provide support services, level 2 and 3 support for them. They did go through, training and certification. They contracted our professional services to provide all that installation and setup. One of the things that Greg mentioned that I think is key as well, as they said that, as they were doing the global rollout, one of the keys was they could get it done down in their offices in Exton and Dublin. But when they started to reach out to the branch areas, they had to really subcontract out to Lync partners that are really know how to handle those areas in different countries. They said they had a lot of telecom issues around bringing those services into each of the different branch offices. So they said that was one big thing that they would suggest is that you contract other subcontractors if you're going for a global rollout.
Other questions? Yes.
So it does all the call-based stuff. It does not do any of the Lync. So if I reached out to somebody in the enterprise and use a consult, absolutely, because I'm actually making calls through the contact center solution and with the potential of conferencing, and we have a whole set of reporting that goes to at what point did you transfer, when did you put the customer on hold, how long were they on hold, how long did you switch back and forth. It shows the whole cradle to grave. We don't, though, show the desktop sharing video or any of those. Yes.
Others? Yes.
Now you have a browser-based client and a .NET client. Does the .NET client go with the operating system? And second question is, does this feature discrepancy between the browser-based client and .NET hardware?
So the first question was, I wasn't sure with the .NET client. What was the first question about?
Does it go along with the operating system dependency? Basically, we've had issues where our contact center, we have to stick to a certain version of OS on the client.
Oh, okay. Right.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so we do keep up. In fact, I think we've already certified Windows 8 solution with all of our flagship solutions. So our .NET application, again, we're a complete Microsoft stack solution from the back end to the front end. So that's key to us to provide that service. So we support back to XP through Windows 7 and Windows 8 as well.
And then
the second question you asked was around web and feature parity between what you saw in the client desktop. We do not have the embedded directory with
or
Lync.
The embedded
This is
Lync.
the embedded Lync client inside of our web client. And we do actually have some things around on our roadmap for where we're going to use the UCWA integration pieces of Lync in their web experience and embed the same experience within our web client.
But as far as regular contact center feature parity, there's very minimal differences now.
Yeah.
Full multi-channel capability, recording, conferencing, everything is there in the web
So
client as well.
I guess I should have said, though, while the desktop, or I guess I should say the user experience of integrated Lync interface inside of our web client is not there today, I can still use my interactive intelligence web client with a Lync endpoint. Absolutely. That's supported, so you can still use the voice vehicle delivering calls. It doesn't matter what client interface you sit on top of. We have a Salesforce integration where our entire application is embedded inside of Salesforce. You can still use Lync as your endpoint for delivery.
Any other questions? I'll tell you what, why don't I go ahead and stop the questions there. If you have any others, Mike and I will be happy to talk to you about them. I've been told to make sure you fill out the evaluation forms. And Brad, what booth are we?
428.
So in booth 428, if you want to come down and see the integration and talk to us a little bit more about that, Brad will be happy to show you a demonstration. We'll be happy to take care of you down in booth 428. So thanks to all of you for your time today. We really appreciate it. Take care.